Hey everyone, ready to dive into some super practical English stuff today?
Yeah.
We're going to tackle complex sentences
Awesome.
and, really break down how to write them like a pro.
Sounds good.
So, you want to make your writing more, sophisticated,
Yeah.
elegant,
Yeah.
complex sentences. Those are key.
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of us, we kind of get the basics, right? Like subject, verb, object, that kind of thing.
Yeah, you got it.
But how do we take it up a notch?
Well, that's what we're here for today.
Right.
We're going to look at specific grammatical tools that help you build complexity without, relying on conjunctions all the time.
Okay, so no ands and buts everywhere.
Exactly.
So what kind of tools are we talking about?
We're going to focus on participle clauses
Ooh.
and relative clauses.
Okay.
These are super powerful for sophisticated writing.
All right, participle clauses.
Yes.
I feel like we've all seen those before, maybe without knowing the fancy name.
Yeah, I'm sure you've used them without even realizing it.
Probably, yeah.
They're basically verb phrases acting like adjectives,
Okay.
adding more detail, description, that kind of thing.
So can you give us an example?
Sure. Let's say we're talking about tulips.
Okay, tulips.
Simple sentence. Tulips were incredibly valuable.
Right.
Add a participle clause. Cultivated in Holland in the 17th century, tulips were incredibly valuable.
Ooh, I see.
Right.
So that little phrase at the beginning, it kind of sets the scene, gives us more context.
Exactly. It's not just a fact. It's like a little story.
Yeah, like why they were so valuable. Right.
Exactly.
Because they were cultivated in this special place.
And it does all that while still being concise.
Okay, concise is good.
Yeah, always good for writing. But here's the catch with passing participle clauses.
Uh-oh, there's a catch.
They have to refer to the subject of the main clause.
Okay,
Otherwise, things get confusing.
I can imagine.
Like, imagine this. Reaching outrageous prices, people were obsessed with tulips.
So wait, it sounds like the prices were obsessed with tulips.
Right, it's funny, but not what we meant.
Not at all. Clarity is key.
Exactly.
So how do we make sure we're using these participle clauses the right way?
Practice, practice, practice.
Okay, practice makes perfect.
Want to try a little challenge?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, I'll give you two sentences. Try to combine them using an ing participle clause.
All right, I'm ready.
Here we go. The price of one tulip bulb reached 10,000 guilders. And this was more than the price of a house.
Okay, The price of one tulip bulb reaching 10,000 guilders was more than the price of a house. Something like that.
Perfect, you got it.
Oh, awesome.
You see how that participle clause adds a little drama?
Yeah, reaching 10,000 guilders? Like, whoa, that's a lot.
Exactly. It emphasizes how expensive those bulbs were.
Like, it creates a pause, makes you think about that crazy price.
That's right. It's all about those small tweaks that make your writing pop.
I'm starting to see how powerful these little things can be.
They really are. And we can take it a step further. There's another type of Korean participle clause called the perfect Korean form.
Ooh, okay, perfect sting. Sounds fancy.
It's having plus the past participle.
Okay, so an example.
Remember our tulip sentence. Instead of cultivated in Holland, we can say, having been cultivated in Holland.
So what's the difference, really?
It's subtle, but the perfect ing emphasizes that the cultivation happened before the tulips became so valuable.
Oh, I see. So it's like cause and effect.
You got it.
Cultivation happened first, and then, bam, high value.
Exactly. And that brings us to another type of participle clause, the ed participle clause.
All right, bring on the ed clauses. What's their superpower? Okay, so ed participle clauses. What's the scoop with these?
Well, they're really handy when you're using passive verb.
Passive verbs, right?
Actions done to the subject, not by the subject.
Got it.
And just like the ing clauses, got to make sure they share the same subject as the main clause.
Right. Got to keep things clear.
Exactly. No confusing sentences.
Can you give me an example, maybe with our tulips?
Sure. Let's say prices rose rapidly. Kind of boring, right?
Yeah, a bit plain.
But with an ed clause, driven by speculation, prices rose rapidly.
Ooh, I see. Now we know why the prices went up so fast.
Exactly. That speculation, that was a driving force.
It's like a little story again.
It is. And see how it adds the sense of, like, momentum.
Yeah, like those prices are just shooting up.
And we did all that without even using a conjunction.
It's like magic. Okay, I want to try. Give me a challenge with an ed clause.
All right, challenge accepted. 2 sentences. Tulips were introduced to Europe in the 16th century, and they quickly gained popularity.
Okay. How about tulips, introduced to Europe in the 16th century, quickly gained popularity?
Nailed it. You see how that flows?
Yeah, it's smooth. Like one thing leads to the other.
Exactly. Introduction leads to popularity.
That's just fun. I'm getting the hang of these complex sentences.
You're a natural. And there's something else cool about that ed clause.
Oh, what's that?
It doesn't actually have a main verb.
Really? I didn't even notice.
It's like shorthand. Having been introduced becomes just introduced.
But the meaning is still there.
That's the beauty of it. They pack a lot of punch in a few words.
So we've got the eng and the ed participle clauses. They're like adding those little details, right? But are there more ways to use them?
Now, this is where it gets really interesting. We can actually use participle clauses to replace relative clauses.
Wait, hold on. Relative clauses, those are the ones with who, which, that, right?
You got it. They're like mini sentences inside a bigger sentence, giving you extra info about a noun.
Right. I remember those. So how can a participle clause replace that?
Remember our tulip price example? The price of one tulip bulb, reaching 10,000 guilders, was more than the price of a house.
Yeah, that was a good one.
That ing clause is actually replacing a relative clause. It's like saying, which reached 10,000 guilders.
Whoa, that's pretty cool. So it's like a shortcut.
Exactly. More concise, more impactful.
Okay, so participle clauses, they're even more versatile than I thought. But what about relative clauses? Are those still important?
Oh, absolutely. They're super powerful for building those really intricate sentences with lots of layers of information.
So we don't want to just throw them out entirely.
No way. We'll dive into their specific functions and how to use them really effectively in a bit.
Sounds good. I'm ready to learn all about those relative clauses and how they can level up my writing.
All right, let's unlock the secrets of relative clauses. They're like those gems with all those hidden facets.
Ooh, I like that. So what makes them so special?
Well, one of their main jobs is to give extra info about a noun, like us. Tulip mania, which occurred in Holland, reached its peak in 1637.
Right. That which occurred in Holland part, that tells us more about the tulip mania.
Exactly. It adds that background, that context.
Like we're zooming in on tulip mania and saying, hey, this is where it all started.
Precisely. Adding those extra details, like brushstrokes in a painting.
But they can do even more than that, right?
You bet. Relative clauses can also comment on a whole sentence, not just a single noun.
Oh, interesting. So like they can give an opinion or something?
Exactly. Like the price was more than a house, which shows how crazy the market was.
So that which part, it's referring back to the whole idea of the price being so high.
Exactly. It's adding that extra layer of analysis.
Like it's stepping back and saying, wow, can you believe that?
You got it. But here's a key rule with relative clauses, especially when they modify a noun.
Oh, rules. I'm listening.
They have to come right after the noun they're describing.
No wandering off on their melon.
Nope. Imagine this. Tulip mania reached its peak in 1637, which occurred in Holland.
So wait, it sounds like the year 1637 happened in Holland.
Exactly. That relative clause is in the wrong place.
Yeah, it needs to be snuggled up next to tulip mania.
Exactly. Otherwise, things get all mixed up.
It's all about that order, making sure the sentence makes sense.
And you know what's even cooler? We can use multiple relative clauses in one sentence.
Oh, wait a minute. Multiple in one sentence. That sounds complicated.
It can be, but it's also super elegant when you get it right.
Like, how would that even work?
Think about our tulip mania sentence again. We can say, tulip mania, which occurred in Holland, reached its peak in 1637 when a single bulb could cost more than a house.
Whoa. 2 relative clauses all in one go.
And it all flows together, doesn't it?
It does. I'm impressed. So much information packed into one sentence.
And the order you put those clauses in, that can change the emphasis, the rhythm of the sentence.
Oh, I see. Like you can really play around with it.
Exactly. Experiment, see what sounds best to you.
Okay, I want to try this. Let's give our listeners a challenge. How about combining 2 sentences with a relative clause?
I love it. Okay, how about these? The most famous variety was the Semper Augustus, and it had a distinctive red and white pattern.
Ooh, that's a good one. All right, listeners, take a minute. See how you would combine those using a relative clause. And remember, there might be more than one right answer.
Let those creative juices flow. We'll share some possible answers in a moment.
So we've been playing around with these relative clauses, combining sentences.
Yeah, it's like a puzzle.
It is.
Yeah.
It makes you think, like, how do you get really good at this stuff?
Well, writing, it's kind of like learning an instrument.
Okay, I can see that.
You can read all the books, but you got to actually play to get better.
Practice, practice,
Yeah,
practice.
Exactly. So, for all those aspiring complex sentence writers out there,
What's your advice?
first of all, don't be afraid to mess up.
Oh, yeah. Mistakes are part of the process.
Totally. See them as learning opportunities. And there's tons of resources out there to help you along the way.
Yeah, like those grammar books. I used to love those.
They're classics. And now you've got all those online resources too.
There's so many websites and stuff.
Exercises, examples, even communities where you can share your writing and get feedback.
Speaking of feedback, that's super important, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's like having a second pair of eyes on your work.
Catch those little errors or maybe suggest a different way to say something.
Exactly. And once you start getting comfortable with these techniques, don't be afraid to push yourself a bit further.
Ooh, push further. What do you mean?
Try out different linking words, phrases, experiment with the word order.
Okay.
See how moving those clauses around changes things.
Like adding your own personal touch.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
So it's not just about the mechanics, it's also about style.
That's right. And mastering complex sentences, that's just one part of good writing.
Right. You need clarity, conciseness, all that good stuff.
You got it. Engaging your audience, making them want to read what you have to say.
It's like finding that balance, right?
Yeah,
Complex, but not confusing.
exactly. And remember, language is always evolving.
Yeah, it's not static.
So keep exploring, keep learning, and most importantly, have fun with it.
Well said. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up our deep dive into the wonderful world of complex sentences.
But before we go, I want to leave you with something to think about.
Right, hit me with it.
We've been talking about English, right?
Right.
But have you ever thought about how other languages form complex sentences?
Ooh, that's an interesting question.
Do they use similar structures, or are they totally different?
It's like a whole other layer of complexity.
It is. So keep those language brains working, and we'll catch you on our next deep dive.
Until then, happy writing, everyone.